Blockbuster was once a time like an American cultural icon and a dominant player in the home entertainment industry. For many of us in the 90s, a trip to the video store was the highlight of their weekends. Can you still remember filling up popcorns to your own bucket? There's no doubt that Blockbuster Video was a pivotal part of American culture. It had almost 60,000 employees and over 9,000 stores all over the world. Its blue and yellow logo was easy to spot everywhere. Blockbuster was also influential enough in Hollywood to organize and give Blockbuster awards to A-list celebrities like Reese Witherspoon, Christina Aguilera, and Backstreet Boys. But then something went terribly wrong, and the dominant player in the home entertainment industry, which makes $5 billion per year, eventually vanished from the scene. So what goes wrong? That the leading video store chain is no longer the dominant player, and other services like Netflix take over the market easily. Here is a story about their rapid and intelligent rise, followed by poor investment decisions, bad merger, scams, and indecisive mistakes that led to their abrupt downfall. Let me take you back to October 19, 1985, when a young entrepreneur and software developer from Dallas, Texas, David Cook, opened his first movie rental store. As for every successful business, it is necessary to solve some problems, and Cook at the time also saw an opportunity and tried to fill the gap. He noted that many local rental shops had very few selections of movies and video games. To solve this issue, he set out to build the very first super brand in the market for video rentals. At that time, the only way for people to see movies that had been shown in cinemas but were no longer available was to rent them from video stores, rather than purchase the VHS tapes themselves. The David Cook video rental business was different from other rental stores since it gave consumers a variety of 8,000 VHS cassettes with the help of a sophisticated, automated checkout procedure. In comparison, other smaller rental companies could only offer a few hundred movies to their customers. The idea was very successful, and just 1 year later, Cook added 3 more Blockbuster locations. Blockbuster started to grow in terms of both stores and content, and the business started offering game rentals in 1987. But in the same year, due to some business disagreement, David Cook left the business, only after a few years of founding. The business was sold to waste management co-founder Wayne Huizenga and other major investors for $12 million. The same year, it was Wayne Huizenga, the co-founder of Waste Management, who started a very ambitious growth plan. And by the end of 1988, Huizenga had led Blockbuster's fast development to 400 outlets from just 19. The business was so aggressively expanded that it was like a new Blockbuster store was opening once every 24 hours by the year 1990. In the beginning, Blockbuster and independent video rental businesses had comparable economics. Everyone paid between $70 and $75 for each movie when they purchased them straight from the studios. Blockbuster, however, once again shook things up in 1998 when it struck a revenue-sharing deal with the studios. Blockbuster was able to cut its cost per tape in exchange for letting the studio a percentage of its revenue. So they were able to acquire the tape for a far less price than the other companies. Blockbuster became the most successful video store chain in the United States in 1988, when it had 800 locations. But in 1992, Blockbuster took another step and acquired the video rental firm Ritz, which helped it quickly expand to over 1,000 locations. Blockbuster then launched an advertising campaign with a budget of $25 million and formed relationships with major fast food chains like McDonald's and Domino's in order to increase their visibility in the public eye. In the early 2000s, the corporation had surpassed all expectations, with 60,000 workers and 9,000 locations throughout the globe. But then an incident happened that became the major reason for Blockbuster's decline and led to the emergence of its main competitor, Netflix. In 1997, Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix, rented out the movie Apollo 13 from Blockbuster, but forgot to return the disc on time. Blockbuster fined him $40 for returning Apollo 13 late after 40 days. At that time, late fees were a major portion of the company's revenue, and the entire business strategy was centered around late fees. This story was told by Reed Hastings to the public for years, but later was discredited by the co-founder Marc Randolf. He claims the two wanted to create the Amazon.com of something and settled on DVDs. Even Hastings has changed his story a few times. He mentioned the idea stemmed from a math problem about the bandwidth of a station wagon carry tapes. Anyways, whatever the reason, was history. If a consumer was late returning their movies, Blockbuster would charge a late fee of $1 a day per movie. In the early 2000s, the fees brought in a total of $800 million, which represented around 16% of Blockbuster's income for that year. Blockbuster's customer-centric business plan included lower initial costs but higher variable costs to attract customers. However, Netflix capitalized on their failure to consider charging a single fee for all of their products. Netflix implemented a pricing model that included a flat rate for the rental of their DVDs for $4 each plus $2 shipping, and it soon moved to a flat-fee monthly subscription with unlimited rentals and free shipping, and essentially removed the concept of late fees. In addition to this, later they launched an online subscription service, which ushered in a new era of innovation for the rental business model. However, the biggest mistake Blockbuster committed was in 2000, when it passed away the chance of buying Netflix for only $50 million. All of these occurrences eventually contributed to the demise of Blockbuster. But that's not all. Blockbuster attempted to mislead its consumers throughout the latter half of 1999 and the first few months of 2000 by using the appealing tagline, "No late fees." It turned out that was not the case, and Blockbuster was hit with a legal challenge when 47 states brought charges against the video rental giant. Customers were upset when Blockbuster came to an agreement in the dispute, which was not the first time the firm had done so in the past. So, with a no late fee slogan, Blockbuster deceived its customers to bring in around $800 million in late fees in 2000. That one-time profit destroyed the credibility of Blockbuster in the eyes of its customers, and eventually it started losing customers to other competitors like Netflix and Redbox. Blockbuster was at the height of its success in the early 2000s, but the concept of renting DVDs over the mail at a fixed cost and without incurring late fees caused it to quickly fall behind the times. The year 2002 saw Netflix's debut on the market with a public offering that was valued at $95 million. Blockbuster was overtaken by Netflix in annual revenue in 2006, with Netflix earning $80 million more than its competitor. By 2007, Netflix had launched its on-demand streaming services, and shortly afterward, the concept of renting DVDs in person began to disappear. Blockbuster's decline began in the early 2000s with Netflix's launch. Customers could rent videos from streaming services without leaving home. Blockbuster's in-store rental model was quickly strained. Digital media's ease of access worsened the situation. Although at that time Blockbuster had entered a deal with Enron, attempted to start a streaming service called Movies on Demand, their new venture was called into questioning following Enron's accounting scandal, which led to its bankruptcy in 2001. Blockbuster eventually bought out Enron's stake and continued to develop its own streaming service, but the project was late and ultimately unsuccessful. In this way, Blockbuster, formerly a market leader in video rental with around 50 million customers and 9,000 locations, was unprepared for the transformation that was clearly on the horizon: the internet. Its competitor, Netflix, however, had transformed the market once again with its streaming services. Blockbuster was forced to go out of business because of its outdated business strategy, as well as the billions of dollars in debt that it brought over from its previous ownership with Viacom. And if we're talking about leadership, each time Blockbuster changed hands, the only thing that mattered was staying in business. Wayne Huizenga and other former waste management executives bought 60% of the company after David Cook, the firm's founder, failed to raise funds through a public offering. Huizenga was very ambitious and wanted Blockbuster to be a media giant that rented movies, sold music, developed computer programs, video games, and featured virtual reality entertainment arcades. He proposed a $4.7 billion Viacom merger to achieve these goals. Viacom bought Blockbuster for $8.4 billion in 1994. This decision came about as a result of stalled merger talks and a negative impact on stock prices. Viacom hoped that the money Blockbuster brought in would help it pay off the debt it had gotten when it bought Paramount. After 2 years of acquisition, Blockbuster lost half of its value, forcing Viacom to split in 2004. When the recession hit a few years later, Blockbuster was $1 billion in debt and had to declare bankruptcy in 2010. Finally, Blockbuster, who was once leading the game, failed to adapt changes when it came to on-demand entertainment and eventually went out of business. Blockbuster's story shows how fast technology can disrupt conventional business models and how important it is to embrace changes and adapt. A great number of businesses have failed because they were unable to adapt to evolving conditions. The words of Charles Darwin express the idea the best. It is not the strongest species that survives. It is not the most clever species that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Thank you for watching.